Hello there, welcome to my palmistry Q&A again, streaming to you live. Q&A, whatever you would like to talk about. I am here today discussing the Simian line for this particular live and recording, but I were happy to answer any questions to do with palmistry. If you are here for the first time, say hi, don't be shy, you're welcome to chat. I'd love to get to know where you're from. Are you from the Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere? Whereabouts in the world you're from? I'd love to know where my viewers are coming from. You know, it's middle of the day here in Australia. I realise it's probably super late or super early if you're on the other side of the planet. Today, I'm happy to talk about Simian line. I have a whole book dedicated just for the Simian line. That's available Amazon in Kindle book and paperback. And I also have a PDF version. If you want it a bit cheaper, I have a PDF version on my website, DESTINYPALMISTRY.com. So it does go on to very basics of palmistry, teaching about the timing on the lines and marks on the lines, things like that. But it's mostly about the Simian line. So I'll be talking about that today. If you haven't got any of my books, this is my second book, Destiny Palmistry 2, All the Lines. I often make content for my videos out of this book, so you might be interested in that. And for all my members, my long-term members are my VIP viewers. They do receive ebooks after being a member for so long. So look into those in my membership options for joining, and there's a list of all the perks that you might get for the for being a VIP member. Hello Lamin, welcome to this chat. I think you have a Simian line, don't you, Lamin? I brought my Simian line book along today. Oh, I'm just knocking my whole house down. It's probably, I don't know if that's showing in reverse. Yeah, so I wrote this book because I couldn't find anything on the Simian line in a book version. So yeah, this is based on a lot of my conversations with people who have a Simian line, and so that's why it's called Simian Line Conversations. So I do talk about some palmistry at the beginning, the timing and marks on the lines, and about the variations of Simian lines, because there are some different types, and some people aren't a full Simian, some have partial Simian or variation. Am I a fortune teller? You got scammed. Oh no, I'm not a fortune teller. I've been studying hands of people since I was very young, and I talk about how the lines on the palm actually connected to your brain. So if you are super stressed all the time, you might find that your hands are covered in lots of lines. And if you're worried all the time, you've got all this energy showing up on your hands. Unless you have such a tough skin, sometimes the tough skin just doesn't reveal everything. And so the mind is, I suppose, reflected on your hands, and that's how we see if someone is going through a hard time or if someone's going through a good time, if someone is healthy, if someone's having health issues. So yeah, I don't do generally fortune telling. I do read what I see reflected on the hand that the person might be going through, whether they're motivated. Also, their personality is very visible on there, which is this Simian line is very to do with the personality. Wrinkles are a sign of age. No, not really. Very sensitive people. Oh, by the way, Lamin, the price varies. I'm not sure what it is on Amazon at the moment, but I think on my website it's about $19. I'm not sure. And I don't know if that's US dollars. Yeah, so wrinkles on your face are definitely a sign of age, but wrinkles on your hands are not. I read the hands of this woman who was 55 at the time, and she was very wrinkly face, but her hands were so smooth and muscular because she used to knit and use her hands a lot. She had beautiful skin on her hands. They looked young. They looked like a teenager's hands. But the lines are not wrinkles from age. They come from the movement of the hand, but they are there when we are born, because if you didn't have these creases placed in your hands, you wouldn't be able to bend and stretch your hands. Obviously, they're there for a purpose, but it's proven that the electric energy in your mind can reflect in all these lines over time. A woman, my neighbor, had severe depression, and she was quite suicidal, and she had to have, on top of medicine she was taking, she had to have treatment on her brain, like electric therapy kind of thing. They do like electric therapy on her brain. She came back from that treatment and her hands were so fizzled with lines. I thought, oh my goodness, what have they done to you? She said, oh, they've basically wiped my memory. And I thought, wow. And it took a little while, a few weeks, for her hands to start coming back to normal. So the fine lines were showing that static electricity in her mind that was happening. Fuzzy thinking shows fuzzy lines. So if you don't have nice clean lines, it might be that your thoughts are not smooth. You might be constantly stressed. Dreamy Joker says the collagen on the skin, entire body changes at once, not only in your face. Also, based on what evidence would you assume a connection between the wrinkles on your hand and life outcomes? Not necessarily life outcomes. It's about like motivations. And the evidence I have is that I've studied this since I was 18 and I'm 58 now. So that's 40 years of studying people's hands and understanding their motivations through the lines. So if they are, for instance, lacking, it's not just my study, thousands of years people have studied the palm lines. If you go and look at the older books, which I do possess, some of the older books have very realistic and practical advice that comes from your palm lines. So it's not just bullshit that somebody just made up. It's those people have studied and studied it, just like I have. And speaking to real people and watching these people grow and watching my own hand lines change. I've watched my own hand lines change since I was about 11 years old. I didn't start studying it until later. And so the lines, for instance, the fate line, what's sometimes called the career line. I'm just looking for a fan because it's so hot in here. The career line, for instance, if somebody who's not very motivated or who doesn't have specific goals in their life, they might be lacking that career line. But if their goal is set, they've made a decided path, that line is likely to be quite smooth. And I'll show you which line I'm talking about. Let's bring up a pen in case you're not aware. So the fade line is, oh, that's a very fine line. I'll see if I make it a bit thicker. The fade line is a line that runs up towards the middle finger. And this is what it usually looks like. And that shows someone who potentially has studied for their career, followed their career path and stuck to that same path with no diversions. If the person, for instance, didn't know what they were doing, they didn't want to study, the line might start from the outside. And if they stopped and changed their mind, then the line changes. If they change their mind again, the line might change again. If this person keeps changing their mind about what they're doing, this is what the lines will look like. And the evidence I have is just my study that I have confirmed this time and time again through people's real hands, not just from reading other people's books. Of course, I've read other people's books for their opinion, and most of them agree with me. So somebody who doesn't have this line at all, and it's seemingly blank, similar to this actual photo here, there's only a tiny bit of a line there. There's no fate line. See, this person has not decided what they're going to do. They haven't even started studying. They haven't made any clear goals in their life. It doesn't necessarily mean study, but it can be any goal. If your goal is to move to an island and sit there and do nothing, then if that goal happens, and if you decided that goal and you stay there on that island, you will probably still have this line because you still stayed on that steady path. So the steady path is what this line stands for. And that is one of the most important lines in palmistry. The other more important lines is the mind line and the heart line. So the head line and heart line. And today I was talking about the Simian line, which some people have only one, and it's quite rare, and even rare to have one on both hands. So instead of having the heart line, which normally sits around there, and the head line, which sits there, they're fused together. This heart line represents how passionate you are in general, how much you go after what you want. If you have a matching clean headline, it gives you the logic and the practical ability to follow through and kind of be sensible if you have a sensible mind. If that second line, if the headline is like all fuzzy or missing or just broken up everywhere with a passionate heart line, that's a potentially a dangerous mix, because the passionate energy of the heart line, a person follows their passion, but they don't have the empathy, the sympathy, the mind that can feel for another person. So that person might do things out of passion, but they don't have that emotional attachment to any of that passion. So those two lines need to be quite similar to be sort of a balanced personality. That's an appeal to experience fallacy. I don't know what that means. An appeal to tradition. I don't know what that means. That's your opinion. You're welcome to your opinion, but considering this is what I've studied most of my life, and you obviously have not studied it at all. For me, your opinions are a fallacy to me. They're a fallacy to me because I know what I've studied and I know what I've witnessed. And how else do teachers teach? When you go to a math class, do you tell them, oh, that's just a fallacy, that's not how you're supposed to do things? Because no, that's how that teacher was taught. That's how that teacher learned. The teacher learns English or their language. They learn how to teach what they have learned. So there's no fallacy in experience. So the person who has life experience, the person who has seen the world, has been there and done that, they have experience. You can go to that person and say, oh, what was France like? And they will tell you. And are you going to tell them, oh, that's just a fallacy because it's not traditional to say or be there or do that or experience that? No, everyone has their experience. And I teach my experience. And I teach the experience of thousands of years of other people studying. So it's not at all something that someone just made up and decided they're going to start scamming people, you know. So this is my experience, and I would love to see your hands and do a palm reading for you and see what comes up. But I have a feeling if I looked at your hands and explained some of your personality and I suppose talked a little bit about what potentially has happened in your past based on these lines, you're probably going to deny it anyway, just because you seem like a stubborn person. And so I think I already know what your hands look like based on your comments. So if you are interested, go ahead and check out my website and go to the Contact Us section, and you can email me your photos, and we'll see if we can do a palm reading for you. And then you can decide for yourself. But anyway, I'll probably renege anyway. I probably won't bother. But talking about this Simian line, when the mind and this heart line are fused together, it puts all those emotional side and the practical side together. So these people can feel things a bit more intensely, but it's either on or off kind of a feeling. So they don't have a nice smooth balance between the emotion and the logic. So they may never really feel the emotion fully, or they may not ever feel the logical side fully. So maybe a little bit of, like a tightrope, a little bit tense. So I've got, out of my book, Simian line book, I've got people that have commented about their own personalities. So, for instance, this person says, I think my personality is like ordinary people, but I know I have high tolerance for people nowadays. I see things from a bigger perspective. I find it easy to make my brain and heart agree with my opinion or decisions. So, in other words, they might have that emotion and logic agreeing when they make their decisions. Whereas some of us might go, no, I don't feel that's right, I feel sad about that, Or they might go, I want to do this because it's the right thing to do, because it's the logical and practical thing to do, and they'll either follow their practical thought or they'll follow the emotional, their heart feelings. So the Simian line people tend to make sure that before they decide that their heart and their mind agree. Sometimes they forget one or the other, and they might make decisions impulsively and not think at all. So I'll read a couple of more of these personality types. So another person says they're an introvert, obsessive in my thoughts, sleepless, very anxious, some mini panic attacks, curious, observer, loving nature and animals, creative, neurotic, artistic, reader, adventure person. So this person is very energetic. They have a lot of energy for what they love to do, but then at other times they just don't do as much. It's like that on or off. So they're full on with their life or they're full off. Another person says, I've always felt different. I'm 52 and I have 4 beautiful daughters that are in some way share the empathic sensitivity that I do. So the empathy side of the Simian line tends to be more so if it sits higher like this on the palm. If it's down lower, it tends to be a little bit less empathetic. So the higher it is, that tends to be more towards the empathy side. Also, if there is a floating heart line, that adds sensitivity. The more sensitive a person is, the more likely they're going to have these lines that cross up the top. That's showing that static energy thinking in the mind. So the top of the hand does tend to represent more about the mind, and the bottom of the hand tends to represent more about the body. So if there are lots and lots of lines on the bottom of the hand, that can represent a physical problem in the body. Like there is a lot of static going on, maybe in the digestive region. So that's showing too much energy in that area. And up the top of the hand, it shows too much energy if there's a lot of lines. If there's a many lines horizontally, I just said horizontally, vertically, if there's vertical, lots of vertical lines, and there's a lot of energy in the mind in what they are doing, being, calculating, like there's probably overdoing everything. So, and if these lines tend to crisscross, they call those a grill, and that becomes stagnant energy, like the person needs to calm down a little bit. Overthinking is possible as well with the Simian line as well. If you have a long headline or a Simian line, they tend to be the signs of an overthinker in that sense. So more about this Simian line. I have more conversations in here. I won't read any more of those. I do have another Simian line video where I do read a quote of the quotes out of it. So that is very helpful if you want to try and understand the line. In this case, the line is quite like dead set from one end to the other, and there's no real sort of branches or deviations from it. There's basically just a single line. If there happens to be some branches that come away from it, then that's releasing some of that energy. that energy is going, I suppose, leaking. So it's not so intense. So it's letting out some of that emotional side. It's letting out some of the intensity of the logical side. So giving that empathy and giving those feelings a bit of a release from there. So it's normal. It's actually very common and very positive to have some of these branch lines coming away from it. But I have noticed that many Simian lines, they don't have a very clear fate line. It tends to, I suppose, go with their personality where they don't often stick to one thing. The Simian line people that I've spoken to, they have, I suppose they have an end goal is to potentially make money or be successful with their family or whatever that end goal might be. But I've noticed that many of them have the changing lines. So they might have a fate line like this one a little bit here, but then it'll change over and then might even change direction and just sort of move around. And the more lines that are up the top, the more likely the person will still be very active in the older age and or receiving payment like finances, income, receiving income. If there's double lines, then that could represent a double income. It can represent someone who is supporting the person as well. But having this whole top area quite blank just tells me that the person has not made up their mind about what exactly they're going to do with the rest of their life. This is a left hand, and I believe it is a non-dominant for this person. So I don't have the dominant hand on me at the moment, but I do think that this person is a double Simian, and the other hand was quite the same. If you've only got the Simian on one hand, if it's on your non-dominant hand, so that means that you are more intense on the inside. You feel a bit like your head and your heart are together, and you've got those intense thoughts, or intense focus, singular mind. But if on your dominant hand it's not, then that kind of makes your personality for the public a bit different to how you feel on the inside. So you might feel like people don't understand you, but you have seemingly fit in with everybody. You seemingly feel like, yes, you fit in with everybody seems that you fit in, but on the inside sometimes you feel like, no, you don't fit in. So basically the double Simian line, then, that most by the time they reach 30s and 40s, if they understand their personality, they would be already decided that they know that they are different, and they know that people see them potentially don't agree with all their views. And so you might have, for instance, someone with the double Simian, they might have a particular view that they believe in, and that's the way that they live their life. And there could be as simple as the way that they clean the floors. That's the way they do it. That's their logical way of thinking. They're happy with that pattern. But if somebody says, well, that's not how you're supposed to do it, and it should be done this way or that way, but it's going to be really hard to change that person's mind, because the double Simian is not only have their own way of thinking, but they're so stubborn that I don't think people are going to be able to make them change their methods or their views, because that's just how they want to stick to it. So they're quite stubborn personalities. So any more questions? How many viewers we got? Oh, we lost our viewer. We lost Dreamy Joker. I don't think he's here anymore. He or she, can't tell. Dreamy Joker. Could be anything. But yeah, nice to see people come in and have a little debate. I'm all up for a debate. I can talk about palmistry all day if I had the energy. But anyway, so any more questions? What's the time? 12:03. That's half an hour. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. And I think I do have a link to my Simian line book on the description of my channel here on YouTube, and I've got links to it on my website as well. I've got the PDF ebook on my website as well, and if you prefer a physical book, though, that would have to be ordered from Amazon, because they have the printing facility, not me. So yeah. I mean, that's so true. We don't like someone to tell us what to do. Yeah. Yeah, so one particular person that grew up with me was a double Simian, and he couldn't be with his mother because his mother couldn't handle him. She clashed with him to the point where he would just disobey everything that she said. So it was really, really difficult for the mother to rear the child. So I helped rear the double Simian with his father, and yeah, there was a few clashes, but the father was understanding of that Simian personality, and so knew how to work with it, how to work with their logic, be understanding, but also set some rules. You know, they need, I suppose, not so much rules. I'm trying to think of the other word. When you set a regime, when you have a routine. So setting a routine. So routine is important, because the Simian line gets very obsessive. So their routine might be, have to go to the gym first, have to eat this same food every morning, and then have to make the same food every evening, have to do the regular things, and it's a pattern that goes on for a long time. It's sometimes very focused, sometimes very multitasking. So the Simian line might have music in the ears, they might be watching football on their phone, they might be texting somebody else, and then they might be eating. So it's like doing 5 things at once, but not, I suppose, focusing on any one thing too much. And they're also trying to sort of get the Simian line person to be interested in something that they're not passionate about, that's difficult as well, because they're very passionate personality about what they have, whatever life path they've got them into. So it's, if there's a young child with Simian lines, it's really important to teach them that routine, to teach them good habits for their passion. So get them into sports, or get them into art, get them into something that they can dedicate their focus on, because then they can be on a good path. So you don't want them to just run off on their own, because they might turn to crime. They'll turn to crime and they'll be obsessed about crime. They will stay on that crime path because no one lined them up, you know, in a sensible kind of a way for that personality. That's kind of an obsessive, compulsive even personality. So I've got a survey on my website that I ask people who have a Simian line, do they have 1 or 2 Simian lines, and I ask them to let me know about what kind of personality do they think they are. Do they think they are creative or athletic or more intellectual, or whether they, did I say creative? Yeah, so like also different categories sort of thing. And also ask them to let me know a little bit about themselves. That helps my study. Actually, I don't know if it's very easy to find now. That I used to be on the front page on my website. I might have to move that Simian line survey so it's a little bit easier to find. I do have a menu options on my website where you can find all the articles and all the information. I've got a table of contents that you can look for all the various articles and various surveys. I've got quite a few surveys. I should try and bundle them all up somehow. But yeah, all right. How's it going there? Any more questions? We're going to round it up, round it off. I'm going to leave this video public. I normally put my live streams for members only, but like the replay, but I will leave this replay on for the public, just so Dreamy Joker can come back and listen to it again. Anyway, thanks for joining the chat, Lemon. It was a hard, difficult time of day for most people. I know it's many of my viewers are online a lot later in Australian time, so I'd have to come here 9 p.m. my time, but 9 p.m. my time is bedtime because I'm old. Lemon says, I think it's hard to make a decision since everything runs on the one line. Yeah, it's hard to make a correct decision, I think. When you do decide, you might not have made the correct decision. So what I used to always recommend is to seek help, seek advice if you have a serious decision, like especially financial, to go and seek some financial advice. Yeah. Okay then, cool. I'm gonna cross that off, and yeah, nice to see you back here, and I will be back on next Tuesday, which is probably Monday in the other side of the world. and I'll post the time and date in my live stream when I'll be doing my next one. I was away for 2 weeks, so trying to relax for a couple of weeks. Anyway, I shall catch you later. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you later. Bye.